Joining us from Los Angeles now is Joseph Meuse. He is the president and founder of Business GPS. Mr. Meuse, thanks for being with us. And I guess it's a good news, bad news scenario, which is that Pfizer is announcing they believe they have a vaccine that is 90% effective, 90% plus. I guess the bad news might be, how many small businesses do you think will survive?
That is a really good question. I think what people tend to forget is that there is structural damage going on right now, that businesses, it's not like flipping a switch and all of a sudden business is back to normal, so everybody's good. There have been people laid off. There's been a significant amount of debt incurred, and that's even if you're still in business. You know, a lot of these businesses are closing up, and it's not that tomorrow the economy is good, they're going to open back up in business again. They've got to rent the space again. They've got to invest capital again. It's like starting from scratch.
What do you tell business owners that say, I've reached the end of my rope? Even though there might be light at the end of the tunnel, we could still be talking 6 more months. What if Congress even comes up with a stimulus bill that gets them to that point? How much shock is there in the system where people just say, I got to find another way to make a living?
I think there's an incredible amount of shock out there. I tell all of my clients, let's assume the government comes through with zero. Let's assume nothing happens. What's your plan for moving forward? And I tell you, small business owners right now are truly in a state of shock. There's a ton of fear. And I just try to get them to, let's buy another week, let's buy another month, because I think time is the asset as a business owner you're trying to buy right now.
What's it really like out there on Main Street?
It's very, very difficult. You know, we talk about the K recovery for individuals, right? The professionals and the folks that are wealthy, they've recovered or doing well. It's the same thing with businesses, big businesses, Amazon, Zoom, others, they're doing great. But the small business out there is not. It is truly a struggle. And I think we're just starting to see the closures and the bankruptcies. I think we're going to see another 6, 9, 12 months of massive bankruptcies and closures going on. Even if the economy comes back, the damage has been done.
Tell me what we don't know. What small businesses have been hurt the most?
Well, I think it's, the obvious ones. It's the retail locations. It's the hospitality. But you're also seeing a lot of stretches in manufacturing, for example, where they're still being productive. They're still producing goods, but instead of getting paid in 30 days, they're getting paid in 90 days, 150 days. We're finding B2B businesses are truly getting stretched with their cash flow. And they think, well, I'm still in business, I'm still making stuff, but the cash flow just doesn't fit.
I think the thing that amazed me most when this pandemic started was that I didn't appreciate how many small businesses were actually restaurants, were hotel workers. And when you shut down those two segments of society, how the trickle-down effect just seemed to keep going and going and going. You forget about a waiter in small-town America actually made enough money to support his family. Or the restaurant owner that owned one restaurant, then began another restaurant, and another restaurant, became that prominent citizen. Are we seeing cornerstones of businesses in small-town America just crumbling under our feet?
Absolutely. And what's so interesting is that the government could have stepped in. Yes, there was the PPP program. The EIDL program from the SBA has been somewhat of a bust. The government, in my opinion, completely blew it in terms of executing there. But these small business owners really relied on that money. And the small business owners, they want to keep people employed. Susie, Johnny, whomever, they've been with them for 5 years, 10 years. The last thing they want to do is let people go. So if we as a government could only give a little bit more of a lifeline to those businesses, then those people can stay employed. And it's like you said, it's a trickle-down effect. Those people are employed, they can stay in their homes or their apartments, they can continue to spend money. It dominoes, but it hasn't dominoed because in the last 90 days, the government didn't step forward. My hope is with the elections that things are going to change. If not now, then come January 20th.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about small businesses versus college graduates entering the workforce this spring. Stay with us. We continue our conversation now with Joseph Meuse. He is the president and founder of Business GPS. Mr. Meuse, I'm curious. I've heard it in Washington on both sides of the aisle. We're giving them so much money they don't want to work. They're making more money off of the stimulus checks. Oh, you're laughing. Why?
Well, I think that's an excuse. But to me, the government was built for situations like this, national security, national economic security. If they had only stepped in, listen, no program is going to be 100% right. You can always point to an exception somewhere. But I think the important thing would have been for the government to simply step in and take action. Situations like this it just screams for action. The government initially did that in April, but never followed up. I don't necessarily understand why, and I guess if I knew, things would be different. But they should have taken action. No program is going to be perfect, but action matters to 99% of the people out there.
Does Washington get it when it comes to Main Street?
Not at all. I don't really understand why the Republicans, especially in the Senate, didn't agree to a stimulus package back in October. You look at how close the election was, you think, boy, if the Republicans had just moved forward with a stimulus package, keep in mind that 2 out of every 3 new jobs comes from small businesses. If they had just supported small businesses going to election, things could have been different for the Republicans. Things would have been different for those business owners and all those employees. So no, there's a massive disconnect. And just one other thought there. I was reading how now the Republicans are unlikely to cooperate with the Democrats in passing a stimulus, because if they do, the economy is going to get better, and then their chance of getting more seats in the 2022 election goes down. I think that's got nothing to do with what's best for the country. So a massive disconnect, I think, especially on the Republican side of the aisle.
Republicans, though, will argue, look at Wall Street. Wall Street's booming. The stock market is back to where it was before the pandemic. So why isn't that translating to Main Street?
Well, I think that's that K recovery. So the wealthy individuals out there are doing quite well. They're invested in the stock market, but the average male or female out there with 2 kids and a family making $40,000 a year, $30,000 a year, the stock market's meaningless to them. That's got zero impact. What they know is they can't pay their rent, they don't have their paycheck, and so we're not going to get very far as a country if we don't take care of the other 90% of the people out there. So it's not about the 10% or the 1%.
Mr. Meuse, there seems to be this myth that the generation before the pandemic had jobs. They were graduating from college and couldn't get jobs. They were working in Starbucks, they were stocking store shelves, they became what we know as the essential workers. How concerned are you that with this next wave of college graduates entering the job market come spring, that we're looking at low wage growth, period, because the market's going to be flooded with people that just need a job of any type?
I absolutely am concerned about that. I can't imagine being a college senior coming out trying to find a job. I do believe that the economy is slowing tremendously right now, just from what I hear from small business owners that have spent their PPP money, if they did get additional money from the government, it's all spent. So at some point, there's no gas in the gas tank, and I feel like that's happening as we speak, especially as the numbers for the coronavirus go up again. Sure, maybe there's a vaccine, but I still think that's many months away. In the meantime, to go back to what we said in the beginning, there's a lot of structural damage taking place. Once these businesses close, you cannot flip the switch and reopen them.
If you could talk to the incoming Biden administration, and they're listening right now, what would you tell them?
Support small businesses by passing a stimulus that helps people stay employed. So if the money is tied to jobs, fantastic. Small businesses simply want to stay in business. These small business owners are working 80, 90 hours a week. They want to keep people employed. Tie the money to employment, no problem, but keep these businesses moving forward, because that's the easiest way for jobs, for the economy to move forward, for the benefit of this country.
Joseph Meuse joining us from California. He is the president and founder of Business GPS. Mr. Meuse, thanks for being with us, and stay safe.
Thank you for having me. You too.